Welcome back to the Agent Success Podcast. My name is Spencer Smock.
I'm J.C Agajanian, and we are sitting here with Josh Pono, owner of First Class Real Estate, and I think the first brokerage in San Diego, right, for First Class?
Yep, first brokerage in San Diego.
Yeah. We've been shooting the shit, having some shared stories of peaks and valleys in our career, and we're going to carry that conversation on for you guys today. Josh, thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. I'm stoked.
We always like to share a little bit of background on kind of what led you to this point to being the owner of a brokerage here in San Diego. Tell the folks a little bit about early career and the transition that led you into real estate, and then we can get them up to speed into where you're at now.
Yeah, sounds good. I always wanted to be in real estate. I thought that was going to be running my father's general construction company, and because I just loved houses and I loved working on them, I thought. And I ended up transitioning into real estate, where the first 8 years of my career, all I did was internet lead gen. So I worked at companies like Z57. Sorry, all those agents that got called and hammered by. There's actually a website built about me called Agents. Z57 Stop Calling, and it talked about this sales trainer that was teaching people how to call agents in just like 7-8 times. And so I was laughing because
That's like a victory medal.
That's still alive?
back in the day, it was a victory medal, right? Because it was about that, like, it was a boiler room place, and the product was whatever. But I parlayed that into working at companies like Agent Jet that helped teams, and then I got recruited to Boomtown, which was like the company to work at for the best teams in the business, which is how Kyle got on my radar, right? Back in the day. And I ended up transitioning into real estate and started my own team. At the very beginning, I worked with Big Block Realty for a little while. I had a small team that was relatively successful. Got recruited to a Gary Keller Top 100 team, and then pit stop at the Altman Brothers, and then it led to finding my real passion, my real calling, which is helping agents build their systems and their lead generation channels, and doing it within a platform that would allow me to do that. So that's how I got here in a nutshell.
So you originally were East Coast, right? Where are you from?
So I've always been born and raised Southern California.
Okay.
But I had a pit stop where I had to go live with my father for a while. He was East Coast. I lived in Rhode Island for about 4 or 5 years, and then came back to San Diego. And then when I was at Boomtown, I was in the South, in South Carolina.
Okay.
So I've done a little bit of traveling for work, and that's why sometimes when people meet me, they'll say, you seem like you got this kind of East Coast gritty to you. It's, well, my whole family is from the East Coast. I spent 4 or 5 years there from the time I was 16 to 20-ish. So it was really impressionable.
Yeah.
And I was hanging around all my cousins that were very much the A's and the oh, and so there is a little bit of that in there. But I was born in Simi Valley, California. Went to school all over Southern California. So
I feel like having that little East Coast edge is helpful in Southern California.
I learned how to be. I learned grit. Right, there's definitely that East Coast grit is real. That hard work ethic, get stuff done, fast pace, no complaining. California, and it's funny because a lot of my relatives think that I'm like this laid back hippie because I just don't get nearly upset about anything as they do. Right, so it's like he's that guy that just doesn't give a shit about life, and it's like, well, no, I just don't feel like we should argue with people at 7-Eleven for nothing. But yeah, but it has been. Those times, I was working 80, 90, 100 hours a week with my father, and you were late if you showed up at 6:01 on Sunday after working 15 days straight. Like, so there is some of that where it's
no excuses.
It's been beneficial in all kinds of different environments for sure.
I think also beneficial is your route to the industry, because we actually have one other agent in our office who came through the either CRM or
Proctor, right?
No, it was Peyote. Kevin,
I worked
KP.
with Proctor, by the way.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So Mike back in the day was at C57 when I was there.
Oh, okay.
And I think I was Mike's first trainer, or he might not have been on one of my teams, but yeah, Mike and I go back.
How did Mike? Mike was here
Probably
last week. We did a podcast for an hour and a half. Never mentioned it. Jim only.
It was probably a low point in his life. Like he did a little bit of cold calling there. I've loved the place and valued the place because I found the right space for me at the right time, and I found it was an interesting part of my life, and I was one on the in, and it wasn't a great place for a lot of people. And Mike was not meant to be there, and so he did well there. He was awesome. He was one of our better guys for sure. He was always talented. I mean,
Yeah.
Mike's
Whole life of sales history, really.
yeah, Mike was the man, and it was just one of those things where I'd imagine that if you talk to him about it, it's not like a highlight in it. It's not in his highlight reel.
Right.
It was a pit stop.
But understanding lead generation, understanding what it takes to get some new seller or buyer from a stranger to sitting in your office and having a conversation, like that's the stuff that you were living in before you ever actually got into production, which is something that most people don't have that luxury of knowing and having that experience on that most critical part.
Our format for our workday was we were in the office at 7 a.m. We had a 7 to 7:15 sales huddle, get hyped, get on the phone. We would prospect from 7:30 to 9:30, have a 15-minute break, go back, prospect from 9:45 till 12.
Wow.
And then do the second half in the same format. So we would prospect all day, dial after dial. I mean, sometimes we made 250 dials in a day to set appointments, to present our product, to sell the product, and then hand it off to somebody. So that whole coming in and having to cold call or having to meet people to set buyer and seller consultations, it was like, this is the habits were already there. The why you call to set an appointment to meet with a client, that was already baked in. Like it was internal at that point. It was habitual, right? So that was one of those things where I didn't get into real estate thinking that my job was going to be showing homes. I was like, I got to generate leads. I got to call the leads. I got to meet with the leads. I got to get them to hire me. And then we'll figure out the rest.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, figure out the rest later.
And then once I got that, like, I'm going to learn. And I learned, man. There were times where, because I went to Big Block, because I thought I knew everything. But there were times I made a mistake on the contract and I had to write a $5,000 check, right? Because
it happens to the most seasoned, like mistakes happen.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know how to get the listing agreement signed. What's the listing agreement say? I don't know. I'll study tomorrow. But you know what I mean? But I had that piece. And so that was really easy because prospecting 2-3 hours a day was light work to me. Lightweight. Like,
yeah,
I had to prospect 8 hours a day.
So
and if you didn't have any appointments for the next day, right? As real estate agents, sometimes we're like, well, we'll get one tomorrow. Well, every week we had to hit certain numbers. And if we didn't hit certain numbers, we were fired.
Wow.
And this is 2010. So there are not that many jobs around, right? And I was kind of funny, right? Like you hear all these stories about these top producers who come in who sell like 20, 30, 40 homes their first year. And they're like, well, I just thought that's what people did. I just thought agents were negative and brutal. I didn't realize that the whole market was crashing because I didn't watch the news or anything, right? I'm like, I guess this is just real estate.
I was about to say, you're trying to sell these CRM products and website and lead gen systems in the middle of the worst downturn.
I had no clue, bro. Ignorance was complete bliss. I was just like, I mean, agents are just angry all the time. Like, I just didn't get it, right? And looking back, I was like,
and half of them aren't working anymore.
Yeah, and none of them, I remember I was on this close one time with this guy, and he's like, look, man, he's like, I'm about to lose my house. And I'm like, is that true? He's like, yeah, I'm about to lose your house. I'm like, so here's the deal, man. You got to buy this website. Because first of all, if you're losing your house, that means that unsecured credit card debt means nothing. Throw it on your credit card, take the swing, go into the market and charge. And if you fail, who cares?
Yeah.
Chapter 11.
Backs against the wall anyways.
What are you going to do? It's a $59 website. And he was literally like, you're right. I'll take it. But looking back, it was like, man, had I known what I was doing, maybe I wouldn't have done so well, right? Because I would have maybe gotten in my own head, or I maybe would have. And how does that play into agents nowadays where sometimes we just get in our own head and make it more difficult?
Mindset.
Right? Well, it's so hard with these interest rates. I mean, is it?
Yeah.
Is it? Because there's a lot of people still buying. You only need 2 sales a month to be crushing it.
You know, I tell a lot of younger agents, before the market imploded in 08, 9, 10, 11, rates were where they are now. And the market was on fire. Rates were literally in the mid to upper sixes from 2000 straight through until they started ratcheting down before everything imploded. And people could not refi fast enough. People could not purchase fast enough because they had come from even higher levels than that. And it's all relative.
It's all relative. And you know what, that whole Henry Ford line, if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. I always used to laugh because, one of the things that was really, really crazy to me is I ran a sales team, within about a year and a half of working at these website companies. I was promoted to manager and all this stuff. And I would run a team of 20 reps. So I was running a team where every month we'd fire 3 and every month we'd get 3 new ones. And I would train and develop and train and develop. And what I could see at scale was the sales reps that thought December was always a slow month for them. It was.
Mm-hmm.
And the sales rep that thought December was always the best because of tax benefits and they always crushed it, right? And so it was like in sales especially and in real estate especially, if you're thinking it's slow because of your actions and your activities or your conversations. It's slow because you're approaching everything you're doing. You're approaching it as if it's slow. So you're already layering that level of blockade into your success of it's going to be slow. Mm-hmm. All my efforts are not going to come to fruition. Like I'm going to get a little bit here and there, right? Versus the finding your value in the niche of like, man, I'm doing really well and really approaching it enthusiastically each day. And I'm not sitting here like, I mean, dude, there was weeks at a time where I was just straight depressed, couldn't sell myself out of a wet paper bag when I was in my mid-20s. And I had to learn how to build up that resilience. I think everybody's been through that space where it's really hard to sell if you're negative. But again, it goes back to how we're showing up each day.
Same on the mindset idea with you coming in going, I thought this is just what people do. So many agents come in thinking, I only need to sell like 3-4 homes this year. I'm going to make a ton of cash and it's going to be easy.
Yep.
Like think about the different like expectations you have walking into it with how you came into the industry after grinding in helping realtors all that time into what I feel like most agents expect, which is big money and easy work. Like they're setting themselves up for failure that way.
It always goes back to our expectations, and it was tough though too. My expectations around how much time, and I joke about this now because I also was a little hubris in my 25-year-old age, right? Of like, agents are lazy. It's so easy. All they got to do is generate the lead and go show the house. How hard could it be? And I realized that oftentimes it's not laziness. It's just being paralyzed by so much going on, right? We got to do this responsibility and this, and then there's this flyer and there's this. And my first 2 years, man, I really, really struggled because I was also, the downside of that job was it was 7 to 4, Monday to Friday. And once at 4 o'clock hit, nobody calls their website salesman on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Right. So I was used to Friday I'm done and then I'm off and I get to recharge and decompress.
And more importantly, don't have to think about it.
I don't have to think about it. I'm gone. And that was one of the biggest challenges for me. I remember this one day I had like a full-on legit mental breakdown. I had been working like 21 days straight. I was doing well. I had 4 or 5 deals in escrow. I was like month 5 or something in real estate. And I hadn't had a day off in like, I don't know, 45 days or something. And I finally got one day carved out where I was like, this is a Saturday. Wife, kids, we're doing the beach, we're doing barbecue. I got the rum ready, I got everything right. And the phone rings at like 5 minutes before we're about to go out. And it's like, this house just popped up. I got to see it right now. And I didn't have any leverage there. I didn't have anybody that was a showing agent that could help me. And I still was in that mindset of, man, if I don't go service this client right now, they're going to fire me. I need this deal, right? I was still there. And I literally just threw a full-on like temper tantrum, like mental, like angry, but tears are coming out of like, is this the life that I don't know if I even want this? And then of course it's like, just take a deep breath. It's going to be fine. It's all right. But so there was that challenge for me as well of in the beginning, you don't know how to set really good expectations so that you can live your life, protect your time, but still give amazing service, right? And you don't learn that until you've done enough houses to where you've learned, hey, I can not go show this house immediately and figure out a way to carve it out and protect that time.
It's been one of the hardest things after moving to Southern California that I've dealt with is like, and he's been on me for years, like, stop texting back right away. Like,
oh yeah,
it's fine. Don't text back at 9 p.m. Like, you're training them. We had one client that was just, I mean, the worst. And it was my fault. It was my fault. It was like, oh, this is a $2.3 million listing. I have to answer her calls at 10 o'clock. Yep. Like the world wasn't going to implode. I would have made the same money. It would have been way easier, but I trained them. And so
they then now all of a sudden that's appropriate.
Yeah.
I was having a conversation at 11:30 one night. I'm like, what the am I doing? and the client is like demanding, this is when I'm available, but I already trained them that. Now, you know, I switched my routine up about 4 months ago. I'm up at 4 a.m. And so if anybody texts me after 8, I respond at 4:30 in the morning.
That's what this guy does.
4:45
4:45
in the morning going, hey, what's up? Missed your text. I was in bed. I'm up early. And that right there, ain't nobody getting up at 4:30 with us.
And you don't even have to say that. Like, I'll respond. I don't get up till 4:45, so you got me beat in a major way.
Bit.
But like, I'll respond at 5 or 5:30 to something, and you don't have to say, I went to sleep early. I get up.
No.
Just by doing that, they're like, people are like, 5:15? What is this? You know, like, it catches people off.
That's one of the coolest little hacks that I've learned. For anytime I talk about 4 a.m. wake up, everybody first off just like, how do you do it? Or like how, and I'm like, massive pain, because I've always wanted to be that person that wakes up early, but I was always the person that stayed up late, and you know, I could never wake up, and it took me 8 to 9 years to get to where I got it. And it started out by like 6 was a victory, and 5:30 was a victory, and then, you know, going to 5 and for the longest time. But one of the things that I've learned over the last, I don't know, 150 days, and I'm committed to 4 a.m. is the spot. One of the things I've learned is when you tell people you wake up at 4 a.m. regularly, nobody questions your work ethic.
Yeah.
Don't even matter if I don't work from 4 to 7. Doesn't matter. The fact that you're up at 4, and people are always like, what are you doing at 4 a.m.? I said, well, for the first hour, I just make fun of the 5 a.m. club. Like, that's all I do for the whole first hour. I just like, look at these guys. No, no, I'm in scripture. I'm in meditation space. Like, I'm in get Josh ready for the demo. But
absolutely.
I always mess with him because, you know, you see the whole 5 a.m. club, bro, and I'm just like, okay, all right.
Like, post every single morning.
He's jabbing at me.
5 a.m. club.
I have some friends. I have some friends that are like 5 a.m. club, and I always you remember the something about Mary. Well, I mean, that's cool until somebody does the 6-minute abs. What? No, you can't do 6. Remember that scene? Same thing with the 5 a.m.
I'm gonna send your number to Colton Whitney and be like, hey, I need you to text this guy at 3:30 every morning, because he wakes up at 3:30.
Does he really?
Is Colton the guy, the agent attractor that loves his own, like, is the absolute opposite of what most people expect a successful guy to look like?
No,
I mean, he's got tattoos, but
he's glasses, curly hair.
Nah, good-looking guy, built, clean cut.
There's another guy named Colton that is an agent attractor. I think he's with EXP.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he does a lot of content, and he definitely looks like he does the whole I'm me, I'm successful, I'm not, this is who I am, I'm authentic. But it's funny watching some of his posts, because like half of them are like, I'd never listen to a guy like this, and it's like, you probably should, because he's saying a lot of really good stuff.
I know.
He's doing really good.
You know what else makes people not second guess your work ethic? And like, none of us really fit this category, but people that walk in just giant and swole, like. I mean, I don't like that look.
Speak for yourself, bro.
But if you're busting out of your shirt, like, people look at you like, this dude freaking works out a lot. Like, you know that you cannot look like that without putting in the work. So like,
you can't fake that.
Waking up early or being amazingly fit, like, that's demonstrating your work ethic just to the public.
I really appreciate all that motivation you just gave me. I'm going to go home, and my wife's going to go, how'd it go? I'm like, it was really great up until this one point. Apparently, I'm not setting the precedent that I do enough work in the gym, and my calorie intake is not where it needs to be.
I need to get huge, honey.
So we're going to 2-a-days. We're going to make sure we're doing it. I told him 4 months I'm coming back, and if I'm not wearing a medium and seams are busting, then I'm going to have a problem.
No, I mean, you know what I'm saying, though. People that you walk in and you're like, there's no denying it. Like, I feel like, I don't know.
No, it's 100% right, because with fitness, everything gets shown. Like, if you see a guy in the gym and he's just ripped and big, you're like, there's no way to do that and skip the gym and eat pizza. There's just no way.
The diet is going to be harder than even the gym days.
Dude, the diet's the hardest thing. The diet is the hardest thing, because it's like, I'm a dad with kids, man, and pizza night and movie night, right? And I will eat 6 slices of pizza.
It's so hard not to.
I will, and I will go to the gym, and I will hit the track, and I play ice hockey and stuff, but that's the only way I can keep the weight off.
Yeah.
Because it's ice cream night. Handles? Are you kidding me? Spouse like a house?
I just had handles for the first time last week.
He texted me. He's like, dude, I just had handles.
It's
Dude,
fucking ridiculous.
It's so good.
It's
So
ridiculous.
Handles is actually from the Midwest, and when I lived in Ohio for a little bit, that's where they were at, and then they came out here, and I was like,
how the
We're
fuck
gonna
have
go.
I never had
This
handles?
guy's
then?
from
I'm
the
from
Midwest.
Indiana. How have I never
Yeah.
had handles?
it's so good.
Maybe it's newer since you've been gone.
No,
No?
Maybe.
I've been living
I don't know.
gone 5 years.
I was in Ohio.
4
though.
years.
I don't know if they had it in Indiana.
Yeah.
It's
I don't
next
know.
door.
That's
All right,
what's up.
so internet sales to other agents. What year did you transition to? You're back in San Diego when you transitioned to real estate, right?
Yep.
What year is that? And like,
2017.
Okay.
And Daniel Beers, lead ISA, Austin Fisher, when
Mhm.
Daniel was doing like 30 million at Prudential. Was it Prudential? Or was it Sotheby's?
Keller, I think.
Before
he was
Keller.
Yeah.
Was it Prudential before Keller?
I don't remember.
Then he went to Keller, and he was at the North Inland office,
Mhm.
right off the, right. Yep. And Austin Fisher, who was my best friend that I knew from Z57, was his lead ISA, and he was him and I had always, we would hang out, have some drinks, and talk about this big business we were going to build. And I was coming back from South Carolina. I just quit Boomtown, and I was coming back. And I was like, dude, I'm coming back. I'm getting into real estate. I'm building a team. You in? He's like, I've been with Dan for 4 years. Dan, Dan. He invests a massive amount of money into his team in coaching and training. I don't know if there's anybody out there that invests as much as that guy does. And even some of his competitors mock him for how much he.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, who's winning? So he and I started our first team at Big Block Realty, and
so you did poach him from Dan.
Dan was just borrowing my buddy. I didn't poach
I need him back.
nothing.
I need him back.
Yeah, you're
You've
welcome.
had your time.
Dan. I think what you're trying to say is you're welcome. And so Austin and I joined forces, and the first thing we did, we called up Realtor Doc. Well, first thing we did is we went in and pitched 3 lenders because we're gonna do an MSA. We're gonna go spend a bunch of money. And so, dude, you love this. So I go in, haven't sold a single freaking home. I've just got my license like a week and a half ago. And I called these 3 big lenders. One of them was a referral that Austin had met at some networking event. And the other 2 were, I forget who they were, but they were relatively big. And they were at, Fairway or Independent or Cross Country or something. And so I go in and I pitch them. I say, hey, here's what we're going to do. We're going to build a big team. We're going to build it off lead gen, and we're going to do $5,000 to start. So we're going to need $2,500 a month, and then we're going to grow to 6, 7, 8. We're going to build. It's going to be a pillar in our business. And every single one of them, except for the other 2, are like, "How many homes have you sold?" I was like, 0. And they're like, "And you want $2,500 a month to start?" I said, "Yes." And then we're going to scale in about 6 months, and I've already negotiated some discounts at Realtor.com and Zillow because I know how to maneuver in those situations, and I know to talk a big game. And so I need to know whether you're on board or not. And they're like, "Do you know how broke we would be if every single new agent that never sold a home came in and asked for $2,500? I said, "I don't know. How many of them just gave you the history of 8 years of experience in the industry like me? I mean, how many have you done that with?" They're like, "Dude, get us some more deals or bring us some, and then we'll talk." And I was like, "Nah, we're not doing that." And the one guy was like, "I don't know what you're talking about, kid, but I'm in." And that's how we started.
Wow.
And we called up Vulcan, and we called up Mojo, and we hooked those up. And
Austin got to work.
I called up Boomtown. I called up Boomtown. I said, "Hey, I'm doing it. I need a free software," because I worked there. And so I went and got hooked up with Boomtown. I got I got Vulcan, Mojo, and we got Zillow, Realtor.com leads, and Quazoo leads, which back in the day were only like $3 a lead.
I don't even remember Quazoo.
So Quazoo now is like $25 a lead. They're still around, and they were doing all these foreclosure squeeze pages and stuff. So they were like Google pay-per-click quality leads, but nobody really knew about them. And they actually had an excess. It was a good time. And so we were doing about $5,000-6,000 a month with those guys, and the lender was covering half. And Austin, funny enough though, I mean, like Austin gave me, he was a big confidence builder for me, because as much as I was confident that I could prospect and sell and close, and him and I used to compete on the sales floor all the time, I'd never sold a home, and I'd never spoken to a home buyer or seller. So internally, like out on the outside, I was confident. Internally, I was a little bit nervous, but I was super confident that he could, help coach me up a little bit of help, because he'd been doing it for 4 years. So that was a big boost. And we did that team for about a year and a half. We sold 33 homes our first year. We sold another 33 our second year.
From never selling a house before.
33.
Yeah, dude. So the first, so we got in October of 2017. We started up internet lead gen like on the spot. Our first December, so 2.5 months after we got in, we walked into the big block closing party, and we had 3 deals in escrow. I felt like the king of the world, right? Like it was like, we're going to have 1,000 sales next year, you know, like this is it. And even better, Spencer Lagash, who was the broker of record at the time, the third deal that we put into escrow on the way to the party from an internet lead, we met that day. Internet lead comes in, we go and show them. They're like, we want to buy it. We're like, there's another offer. You got to get it in. It was Catherine Fagan, his now wife. We called her up. We leveraged the, hey, we're with Spencer. Could you tell us what's going on? We got the relationship in. We got the deal in. So we were on our way to the big block party. The newest guys in, the big, big talkers, all that stuff. Got 3 deals in escrow. One's with the boss's lady. Man, that was a fun night. And we just kind of rolled into that. And then we made a huge mistake. And in May, we said, oh, we've got this. Nothing could go wrong. Let's hire an admin. Let's hire 3 buyer's agents. And let's do it all while we just got our 8th deal in escrow.
Dang.
I didn't even know what an admin does. I didn't know how to train a buyer agent. I didn't know. I threw this slapstick team together. We got leads. We know how to close. Like, what to do if an appraisal comes in short? I don't know. Right? But we threw that together. And
as an ISA, did Austin have any of that transactional experience or not really?
No.
So you're both just kind of winging it.
Dude, we almost committed mortgage fraud accidentally at the time because we had this FSBO buyer that came in and he's like, I want to buy this $2 million house. And we called this FSBO. He said, I'm selling my home myself. I'm already in escrow. And we said, well, where are you going on the purchase? And he goes, we knew enough to go, well, you going to buy on your own? He goes, well, I'm looking for an agent, but I'm going to buy a $2 million house, but I only want to pay $10,000 in commission. We're like, done. $10,000. Like for us, it's like, that's a $10,000. We were selling $200 websites. Right?
Yeah.
Like, we'll take the 10 grand. And so, then we find out that you cannot give the buyer a check at closing more than the closing cost. And so we're in like the lab, like with the whiteboard going, okay, well, let's reduce the purchase price by this much. Let's have the seller do a reduction in credit here and send this money
Just
here.
working it out.
Bro, like in a beautiful mind. And then we're like, well, wait a minute. Why is the listing agent going to pitch this to his seller? And okay, let's give him a little bit more money. Let's incentivize him that he's going to get more money for convince. Let's give the seller a little bit more. Let's give everybody a little bit more money, and we'll take a little bit less, but we'll get the deal closed through escrow and be legit. We call up Spencer. We're like, hey, does this work? But I mean, that was like a 5-hour excursion.
Yeah.
And that's what really led me to after a few other things going into. I need to get on a team. I need to because I have this skill set, but I'm getting so bogged down. My business is bottlenecking and I'm losing money left and right because I'm making mistakes left and right. And so that was actually all the pain and suffering and trying to figure that stuff out. Like, yeah, it's funny to talk about now, but that was really what put me in a position to say, gosh, if I'm going to do this the right way, if I'm going to build this really good, awesome business that is valuable, I really need to get this skill set of, I need to know everything that can happen in a transaction. I need to know how to navigate all this stuff because I'm just tired.
Dude, you're making me think of an awesome quote that pretty much encapsulates the story you just told. Most businesses, and this isn't just real estate, but most businesses in general don't die from starvation. They die from indigestion, growing too fast.
Yeah.
Right? Like you're going, and then you can't fulfill or you can't, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I heard that, I don't know, some book I was listening to, but I was like, man, that's powerful too.
It was crazy.
It's not starvation, it's indigestion. A lot of times people have the vision, the drive to get to work, but it's like there's something in the bottleneck that stops you and can almost put you out of business entirely, or a lot of people do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is crazy. People don't think about that.
I remember laughing because I had so many people in the year that we did 33 sales and we're cruising in, going into our second year, and so many people looking at us going, you guys are like, future legends and all this stuff. And oh my gosh, you guys are incredible and crazy. And what they didn't understand is that I was almost broke because of the way the business was being managed, and the way things were going. And so it was really this really shallow thing of like, I can't even enjoy this success right now because everybody's like, dude, you're killing it and crushing it. And I'm like, then why am I broke and stressed out endlessly?
Too many balls in the air.
Right.
Yeah.
And just like, and then dealing with all kinds of different conversations. And so, I believe that God puts us all on a path so we can get where we need to go and at the right time. And it just culminated perfectly to like one day I'm like, I'm struggling with Austin a little bit because, our business ideas are in alignment. Austin is like the mad scientist genius. He's the guy that, like, when GameStop was going on, he spent 3 days and made $80,000. Like, he's the dude that, like, quit his job and figured out how to hustle Rock Band kits from Wii, refurbishing them, making $125,000 a year, driving around to Craigslist bargaining. Like,
Wow.
Super, super hustler. He's like the
arbitrage.
Nah, what's the Renaissance man? He's like the Renaissance man, and I was the guy. Let's get up early. Let's cold call. Let's build the business. Let's build this really great thing. And so at the same time that all that was going down, I was like, man, I got to get into a space where, again, I can learn these transactions. And then sure enough, right around that time, I got an email from a Gary Keller Top 100 team, the Kane Real Estate team, saying they were looking for a lead listing agent to take Brian to level 7. And I was like, man, I could go get his database and be the lead listing agent and have the transaction manager and the listing manager and get back into that, set the appointment, get the contract, hand it to the support team. And I was like, that's the way. Plus getting to partner up with him, and he was directly mentored by Gary. And so I've always been somebody, and this is something that I encourage everybody with, because the industry is so like, well, what's the split? What's the split? Well, how much money are you taking from me? And I was on a team with Brian, and I sold 100 and something plus homes in the 3 years I was with him, 50 in 2020, and I was on a 50-50, right? I paid a lot of money, and I don't ever look back at it like, oh man, I really got robbed, because I got a Harvard's education in business development. And I got Brian's a master of how to set up teams and how to do all that stuff and the transactional side and all that. And so it's like, I've always wanted that mentor, and he was one step away from Gary. So I was like, levels, right? The closer I'm an ear away from Gary, right?
Proximity.
Now,
you're paying for proximity.
I'm paying for proximity. And so, but yeah, man, it was a roller coaster.
We have a lot of those same conversations with people, particularly with the Whissel group, just surrounding splits and stuff. And it's like,
my favorite line for that, every time somebody's like, oh, what the splits? Oh, that split's high. When's the last time you took a percentage to the bank? You take dollars. Like, do you want to make more money or more percent? Because here you're going to make more money.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a given.
Well, it goes back to the same thing too, right? Like, I did 33 deals with a buddy of mine and a team, and I was able to do 33 on my own by handing all that off. And I got all my time back too. I remember the first time I signed a listing agreement, and I was like, dude, I just got a listing agreement signed. He's like CC's me and CC's the listing manager. He's like, there you go. Or the first time I set a listing appointment, and he was like, all right, cool. And all these people working. So I could literally I got to see what leverage and value in a real estate team can do for you, right? To where so many agents, what's my split? And it's just such a small mindset. Now, I'm not saying that everybody that charges a split is worth the money.
right.
Yeah.
There's a big problem in our industry right now where, and this is one of my things that, because when I was at Boomtown, I was the senior sales executive, where I would go to these like 40-year-old Coldwell bankers, where great grandpa had started this thing up and they had no idea about internet, and they were getting $25,000, $30,000 a year in splits. And it's like, I was there for 3 weeks. I can't figure out what you guys do. Right? Like, so I'm not saying that all splits are good, but what I'm saying is, if you've got a mentor in place that's going to actually help you become a better business professional, right? Which there's no denying. I mean, I've been a part of the groups that you guys have been a part of. There's no denying that when people go to that group, they come away with value. And they come away with value that shifts their perspective, that changes the landscape in which they operate. That stuff's invaluable. And it's always about, am I getting more skill? Am I getting more knowledge? Is this going to accelerate my growth? And if you're in the space and you're there and you're producing more and you're making more, then what does it matter?
It's such a bigger equation than what's the split. There's so much more to it. In fact, back to Proctor, like, we were talking to him, and his first year, he wasn't even trying to be like a full-time agent. He was trying to do a little bit more after committing to being at home more and being like pretty much like mostly stay-at-home dad. He's like, I was burnt out. I wanted to let my wife take over, and I enjoyed this after coming off an injury. I like staying at home. I'm going to do this for a while. Then he got bored. He's like, I can take care of the kids and still do a little bit of work,
Sounds about
I can, do the shopping, clean the house, get the kids to school, and now I've got half my day still. He's like, I can go sell a little bit of real estate. He does really well, and then at the end of the year, like it's maybe a year or so with Keller, and then he stumbled into a meeting with Kyle, and then like he's like, bullshit, you're not offering all of this, and then the split's better than, and so he went and had a meeting with his broker, and he's like, I just closed all these deals my first year.
Yep.
What did you do to make me do this?
Yep.
Like, because this guy is saying that I can make the same money, and he's going to do this, and he's going to give me mentoring, and he's going to give me this product and this CRM and all this other stuff and leads, and like, what are you doing? And he's like, he couldn't answer.
Nope.
So he said, peace.
Because I was in these meetings with a lot of these broker owners, right? And they're like, we got to get value for the agents. We got to get them leads. We got to do this. And they would try to buy these systems and just like, well, we'll just pawn off internet leads. So I'm like, you can't just pawn off internet leads, because if you got 100 agents, there's 5 to 10 that should be on this, and it'll actually have success on it, right? And I would watch.
Because people don't want to follow up. They don't want to make the calls.
Yep. They don't want to follow up. They don't want to make the calls. They don't want to spend the time and the skill to practice so that they don't sound like robots and all that. There's a million different reasons why. But all the old school brokerages and most of the brokerages are literally only incentivized for you to sell 8 homes, right? And so it's like, well, they don't provide me any value after 8. It's like, well, yeah, you stop paying them.
That's what it's designed for.
That's their design. We want 6 to 8. That's our sweet spot. We make money off of every deal. It's great. There's value.
If you do more, we still got a franchise fee. We'll make a little bit.
Yep.
But keep grinding for the next 20 years.
Keep grinding for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that the really, 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 really freaking cool part about the shift in the market and the appreciation, and from a not ignoring the buyer consumer side or the seller consumer side, but from the business, it's forcing the industry to provide more value.
Absolutely.
Because right now, every agent's out there like, I need to cut my costs that aren't producing results, and I need to get better at my profession. So everybody in these, and there's a lot of shifting going on, because if they can't show that the money that they're spending at XYZ brokerage is helping them grow or produce more money, and they're not getting the skill development, then people are starting to go, man, I'm going to leave. And then when they leave, the brokers and the team leaders and everybody there is like, shoot, we got to do something different, right? And so it is putting a lot of pressure. And for the ones that are behind, sorry. And for the ones that are doing well, it's going to be good.
And there's so much more involved over the past decade or two in our job that, like there's been chatter like teams are the only way of real estate in the future. This is where it's going. And it's like, you can ascribe to that or not, but there's a lot of stuff that exactly what you're talking about, of being able to lean on your teammates, lean on admin, lean on the support within your organization, whether that's a brokerage that's tightly grouped or a team or whatever it is. Like, you got to have some sort of leverage.
The really cool thing about real estate and having a license is that there's a million ways to make money. There's a million ways to make money. And the same thing with brokerages and teams. Like, there's a lot of people, like, so Keller Williams does some phenomenal things, but they also subscribe to the fact that you can't run a team for less than 50% off the agents. And I call it naivety, or I don't know if I'm saying that right, but call it ignorance or whatnot. But I know there's different ways to bake a cake. And there's a lot of different areas where things that were allegedly impossible are really, really possible and creating major waves. And, EXP has changed the game of real estate, and they have created a model that other people are following. There's other competitors that are coming in, and it's becoming this little race to the bottom, so to speak, of, all right, well, you're at this much, well, we'll be right here, and then we'll be right here, and then we'll be right here. And so it's going to put a lot of pressure on all the leaders in the industry of like, how can we provide the most amount of value and keep the brokerage skinny? And in order to do that, you got to provide value at scale.
The other thing that First Class and EXP is doing that maybe nobody else is doing, maybe one or two other brokerages, is not dumping all this money into commercial real estate for offices. Like, like that is a huge savings for brokerage that is then able to be passed on to agents and in the form of better compensation and better splits.
100%, right? Like, so one of the things about First Class that I love is there is no requirement. There's a lot of franchises out there that they require you to get an office space, right? They require that brick and mortar. That's a massive amount of overhead that does not provide results and value. And not for nothing, COVID's changed the game to where agents, there's a few agents out there that are awesome and they need their space, and that's great, and that's whatever everybody does to get ready. But the reality is as somebody building a brokerage and a business, if I could spend $5,000 to generate leads and sales for the clients for the agents every month, or I could spend $5,000 on an office that requires me to go in there and be away from my family when most of them nobody's going to show up anyway. And let's be real, no consumers are walking around the street going, you know what I really need is a real estate office to walk into.
Right.
Like, and that changed because the old school brokerages and whatnot, they've really gone into that space where, and they're feeling the pressure too, though. They're feeling like, okay, we got to shift this up. We got to change this out.
A lot of them have purchased their real estate instead of leased it. So they're even in more of a jam because they've got, most of the time, if it's not paid for already, it's some sort of adjustable loan on a commercial property that you're just paying this huge nut for. And like you said, agents now are less and less likely to show up and put in the work every morning and throughout the day. If they do that, a lot of times they're doing it from home, and a lot of times they're not doing it.
But one of the reasons it's to counter that, some of these old, broker owners or market center owners think that, no, the office is the way. Like, look, this is my P&L. I make this much money. Like, I was with Keller Williams for a short time when I first moved to Northern California, and the guy's wife crushes it that owns the market center. He owns his building. I was her listing coordinator by herself, 113 listings the year I was there. It's wild.
Beast mode.
Yeah, just me and her, like crazy. But so he owned the building outright, didn't pay for it. He leased half of it to another company.
Yeah.
And then Keller Williams wrote him a check for $9,000 a month to rent the space from him. So he's like, look at my P&L, it's great. All right, get rid of this office building.
Yeah, not everybody's in that position.
Exactly.
I will say this though, right? And I don't ever want to be misunderstood about when I say these older brokerages and the things. I'm talking about some of the leaders in the industry that are resistant to change. I flat out know that there are some freaking incredible teams and businesses in Berkshire Hathaway. There are some freaking incredible industry icons in Keller Williams. I'm very much
Coldwell too. Here and there.
Everybody's got their icon industry, and like I know, one of the best agents I freaking know is at Coldwell Banker, and she's the queen of UC. Shout out to Nancy Beck, like, and she is getting her value, and she's like, I think that if you're at a brokerage, no matter what the brand is, and you're with a group of people that you like, and they're investing in you, whether it's energy or time, or they're there for you. And it's great. Keep crushing it. Keep killing it. And there's a lot of phenomenal agents at a lot of different places. And kudos to some of the newer companies that have come out and said, well, we're just gonna push the limits. We're gonna try to add more value. I think they're doing it at a good clip.
Dude, absolutely.
So one thing you were talking to us about earlier, and what I see happen all the time, and I think it's a product of Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all these things. Social media is not every agent. We have 15 to 20 agents come on our team a month. Most of those are getting weeded out in the first 2 months. Almost everyone I talk to, well, what's the goal? I want to sell luxury real estate. I want to sell luxury. So I think it's because, hey, you call up a listing agent, hey, can I come tour your $5 million house? I'm going to put it on Instagram. Oh, this is my house, my listing, whatever. You had a stint of selling, like, not even just luxury, ultra luxury homes.
Yeah.
Why, for some people, that's like the lifestyle, that's go get that, you're going to be great at it. Why isn't it for most agents to like aspire to that luxury?
Super luxury.
Well, I, like many, see the attractive and positive side of like, why wouldn't I want to sell one home, right, that pays 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 15 times the amount of money? Why wouldn't I want to sell a fraction? And that was my thought, right? 2020, I sold 50 homes, and I had people coming up to me going, "Are you going to sell 75?" And I'm like, God, no. Like, I'm already upset about the time I'm not at home. I'm the guy that, like, I'm working nonstop, and I'm starting to become bitter towards the clients for needing me and wanting my time because I'm now the dad that's not in Ohio for family vacation. I can't take off summer because that's my busiest month. Like, so I see all that, like, well, I'll just sell 6 homes. I'll sell 6 $10 million homes and boom, done.
More production than most people ever do doing 20, 30, 50 homes.
Why wouldn't I want to wear nice sunglasses on an oceanfront view on a Tuesday that, it's just okay. It took 3 hours and you stop for lunch. Like that stuff all seems really, really great. The challenge that I think that most people, myself included, I, again, thought that I was going to be able to break in easy. I had a big brand name. There's no denying that I could now say I'm part of this group, and they did $1 billion in sales in 1 year. They got their own TV show in 14 years. I thought that was going to be a little bit easier. I also thought because I had the skills, right? I had the skills and I had the transactional knowledge that I was going to go there. The barrier of entry is a lot higher than it appears.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is that you go from working with people that are, maybe they're making $250,000 a year. That person has a completely different set of expectations for their representation and the accountability of that person than the person who makes $30 million a year, runs super successful businesses. The amount of knowledge that's required. There's a guy by the name of Sanjay, shout out, buddy, and he's with Erica Varunda and the Exude Group. And I'm sorry if I butchered that. He was 21 years old. I met him at Douglas Elliman, and he was breaking into luxury. He was actually one of the people that made me realize, man, I don't really want to be in luxury, because he could tell you every single street in La Jolla and Del Mar. He could tell you he was in college selling 5, 6, 7 luxury homes, and he's still crushing it, killing it full time now, and got his degree and just amazing. But I was always so impressed with him because he could tell you, like, he would tour every single home. He knew every single agent. He knew every single thing. And I asked him one time, I said, why do you know so much? He said, because I'm 22 years old and the only way to win is to know everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because the expectation, that's my only gap. And so a lot of people get into luxury real estate. Oh, it's just going to magically happen. They're going to like me.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody just works with people. Like, no trust and care is what we preach in residential all the time, right? That's like, it's exponentially just compounded of like, that's cool that I know you care, right? And I can trust you, but can you help me? And the amount of knowledge that's required. And it's just like everything else. Like, I don't want to push anybody away from luxury, but you literally have to say, all right, I have nothing going on for the next 2 years. I'm going to study every single home. I'm going to tour every single home. I'm going to get mocked and looked down upon, because those agents in the luxury space, they've worked really, really freaking hard to get there. They've worked really freaking hard to get there. They've done an incredible job their whole career. They're not just going to let anybody waltz in.
Mm-mm. And they don't care if they're getting old. They're going to keep doing it.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Marty and Maxine are some of the best agents on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
They're cruising. They do a phenomenal job, right? And they have decades of relationships. Decades.
Mm-hmm.
Decades. I was cold calling a cancel and expired and came across one of their clients, and it had expired. And he was like, he had this moment where he's like, well, if you could bring me a buyer. He hung up, called me back, and was like, I could never leave him no matter what. I was just at Thanksgiving with them. I've known him for 25 years. And all I could say is like, hey man, nothing but respect and kudos, right? Like, but the barrier of entry there, and it's not as glamorous. Like, people think that you're going to post some stuff on Instagram, and then all of a sudden these celebrities and super rich people are going to be like, oh, they're real. No.
Yeah.
And they're not even really on social media. Like, it's not like that. You're talking about 50, 60, 70-year-old successful people that have a BlackBerry, right? Like, they'll still fax stuff. Like,
yeah.
they're not participating in the new technology stuff.
And you're right, it's not glamorous, because even though they're established, they're old, they know every street, the people that have been in it for long and have earned their stripes, like, they're still doing the grunt work. Like, I remember towards the end of the foreclosure run, I started off worried about neighborhoods I was driving in for the first few years. And then towards the end of that downturn, a lot of the high-end foreclosures started kicking out. And I was assigned Coronado, Point Loma on the Cliffs, La Jolla, Del Mar. I was starting to get some juicy ones. And one of these guys that you would know his name, like in La Jolla, was kind of upset that I had the account, and that after him trying to work it before it really went to foreclosure, like he wasn't able to pull it together, and then it just fell in my lap. And he was just like, I, was down there scrubbing the floors when the water gave. And
Yeah.
you're telling me all these stories about this specific listing that I had. And I'm like, I don't know what you want me to do, man. The guy lost the property and it's my listing now. I know you put a lot of work into it, but like,
Dude,
it's over. And this is a guy that you would know his name. He sells super expensive homes in La Jolla. But even he is like, hey, I'm doing the grunt work, the stuff no one wants to do. I'm cleaning this property up after a water problem himself in the house,
The biggest challenge that I had in luxury, and for some, like, hey, anybody who wants to go, if that's your dream and that's what you want to do, like, if you're wondering or not whether you want to do it, it's probably not for you, right? Like, if your dream, there are some people that are like, I was born for this life, right? I'm going to make it no matter what. Go get it.
Mm-hmm.
Do whatever you want to do. The biggest challenge that I had for me was I was going to get put into a lot of situations where my morals, and I'm not talking about legal, like, is it legal? Is it not legal? My personal guiding morals were going to be questioned at money, and it was going to be very difficult to say. So say yes or no. So for example, let's say it's my son's birthday and I've been working a ton and I've got a $10 million buyer that's worth $300,000 in commission, and he's a very famous, successful person. And he calls me up and says, I just landed. There's 4 properties. I need you to come show me right now. And he makes $30, $40, $50 million a year. And I say, I didn't pick up my phone because it was my son's birthday. Sorry. Right? Like, well, it's $300,000 commission. So all of a sudden, what I realized very quickly is that success then becomes where in the up to $2-3 million, you can control your time.
Mm-hmm.
When, I know a very, very, very super successful, the best Beverly Hills agent that is works directly with his clients, Jeff Yarborough, in my opinion. Just when you talk to Jeff, you feel like he's listening to your soul. He's a phenomenal agent. He had to go do a listing appointment at 2 a.m. with Marilyn Manson. He had to go show property at 2-3 a.m. with Marilyn Manson. Like, he has to take phone calls from like people that are overseas that are doing business, and he loves it, and he's phenomenal at it, and he doesn't have kids, right? And he's in a totally different season of his life, and that's awesome and amazing. But for me, where I'm at right now in my life, where my kids, like, I can't buy that time back, right? Like, I don't want to. I saw a quote the other day, rocked my boat, made me want to not work today. But it's talked about most parents, 75% of all your time spent with your children are done by the time they're 12. And I went, holy shit. Right? Because I got 10 and 8. And it's like, that time, you know what, I'll make some more money later. Right? And that's a constant pull, though, for a lot of people, because we always, as entrepreneurs, we never built the business fast enough. We never tried hard enough.
It's never big enough.
It's never big enough.
Mm-hmm.
It's never as quick as we wanted. And so that was my big issue with the luxury industry, because not only was that going to be the case, but there was also going to be very little gratitude. Right? Because it's like, if you go to a fine dining restaurant and you're paying $1,000 for the meal, you expect your drink to come fast. You expect your food to come fast. And when it comes fast,
and it should be perfect.
Right. And so when it shows up perfect and on time, you don't say, oh my gosh, thank you so much for this amazing experience. Now, you might be super grateful at the end, give them a nice tip, say thank you so much. But in the middle of it,
that's expected.
It's expected.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it was like,
And talking about buying your time back, like, people also see, they're like,
got me messed up, man.
You're saying, the $300,000 commission. It's not always like that, even in the luxury space. We had an agent on our team, and he had a Bird Rock listing. And you would think, all right, $13 million. That was a listing. Like, all right, well, our average commission is about 3%. It's $360,000 or $390,000. What do you think he listed this property for?
What?
On the listing side? Take a stab at
The
it.
percentage wise?
It was a dollar amount, but yeah.
0.5%?
$1,500. Covered just the photography for our team to do it. Yeah. And he had to do it because this guy's a real estate developer. He's got 1 million agents in his back pocket.
We got
it's like,
so much more
it's like, you know what? It's like, I'll just do it. My name's now in Bird Rock.
I might get the buyer. Right? You get into
I might get one listing. And so it's not always I got that $10 million listing. I'm making $300,000. It's just not.
Now, on the flip side,
It was a trophy listing on the water in
It was
La Jolla.
sick.
Yeah. Like
I probably would have done it too.
we're selling ourselves.
Well, I would have at least charged a little, like
Well,
a small percentage instead of a fee.
Yeah, you got to
Yeah.
get
I
more
gotta
money
put
for
gas in my
photography.
car.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, though, there were some really cool times. Like, so I was in a listing presentation with a $10 million listing, and the guy was a very successful person, and I got 6%, right? And it was like, we charge this. This is what we do. This is why we pay for this. We pay for that, and this is what excellence looks like. And there is that flip side, though, that at a certain point with some people, they're always going to get the guy who, well, I got $38 million in properties, and you're going to get all of them if you do me right.
Mhm.
There's always that guy. But there's also the other guys that go, I'm expecting an amazing experience. I want you to be excited about it. I want to pay you well. I want you, because I'm expecting that from you. And if you deliver that to me, I don't care about an extra 50, 75,000, because to me, the experience, because my time is the most valuable thing. So you save me time and we're good. And so, that was also an eye-opening experience of like, I think sometimes as agents, we get in our head, well, so many people are doing 5, and well, people don't want to pay 6, and well, what's your commission? Well, I'll do it for 5, or I'll do it for 4.5, or I'll discount this, and it's like commission's all negotiable. But there are people out there that have made a bunch of money in equity. They want a great experience. They want the best, and they'll pay for it.
Yeah, I feel like, of course, you're going to have your grinders in all price points, but I think specifically in the higher end, people appreciate getting what they pay for and paying for full service, and they're like, okay, if you're going to do the job, I'm happy to pay for it. Like they understand they wouldn't discount for what they do, and they're like, I'm the best at what I do. I hope you're the best at what you do, and I'm going to pay for it.
Yep, 100%. And that's how, and I think that's going on with the same thing with the NAR settlement, right? That's the hot topic of what's going on right now. And for me, I just look at it as this. For years, we've been selling our value to the sellers. For years, we've been painting the picture of what happens when you work with somebody that doesn't know the process and doesn't know what they do. And for years, we've been able to get away with giving a decent presentation because the compensation gets taken and shared from the listing agent, and it's not a bottom line dollar item on their closing sheet. And so we haven't had to, truthfully, dial in, right?
Defend that fee.
We haven't had to defend that fee, right? And so, I was laughing because I was in a meeting with my office and my agent. I said, for 6 months, every single person in here has been saying, I want to dial in my buyer consultation. I want to get it perfect. I want testimonials. I want this. I want that. I want this and that. Now you finally have an incentive to do so. Now you have an accountability to do so.
Now you have to.
Now you have to. Yeah. If you want to win, now you have to, because no longer, now you got to defend it, or you got to
present value, justify it, explain why.
Yeah, because and a lot of people are panicking because internally they have and if you're feeling this way and this offends you at all, just know that we've all been there, and it's looking in the mirror. If you're upset about the value, and now we got to sell this, and now we got to defend this value, or whatever it may be, it's really because you're not crystal clear on the value you provide to your clients, and you aren't convinced that you're worth $15,000 commission. Because I can tell you there have been times where my negotiating skills saved them $40,000 on the purchase price, got them an extra $10K on the request for repairs. So if somebody's like, is that worth $15,000? Yeah.
Or got the house when there's 3 or 4 others that you almost lost it by this much. You know?
And if it wasn't for that extra phone call that you made that just tipped, where the listing agent calls you like, JC, you killed it. Like you were about to lose. And so, yeah, if you,
Molly,
and so many people, because of how crazy the industry is, and listen, everybody looks at that one deal where you made a stupid amount of money per your dollar per hour and goes, that's how it is.
Yeah.
Right? They look at that one deal where seller calls you up, lets you list it, it sells right away. The buyer is the dream buyer, doesn't question anything, closes, done deal in 21 days. It's like the easiest thing ever. But what they don't see is the fact that, like, sometimes a seller goes, oh, by the way, we're in escrow, and I forgot to tell you, we got a court approval because I'm in a bankruptcy. And now you're in a lawsuit because you didn't know about it. Now they're digging up, like, they don't talk about that stuff, right? So.
Or you call your buyer that you spent a year with, and they're like, oh, yeah, we just closed. Aren't you happy for me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so happy. Yeah. I think it's honestly,
Real estate.
I think
by the
it's
way,
going to be.
I have to throw it out there in case there's somebody who isn't in real estate watching this and they're like, look at these guys on their soapbox. No. Real estate is the best place to be in regards to a business. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. And like everything else in life, it's not the social media highlight reel, and that's okay.
That's the exception, not the rule that you just explained.
It's the exception, not the rule. And this new thing, I already had a conversation today. I was on the phone with the listing appointment that I set today when it was like, so I heard this NAR settlement's really going to crush your industry. And I said, that's interesting. He goes, I heard this is going to, there's a lot of change going on in your industry and it's going to be pretty crushing. And I said, are you referring to the NAR settlement? He said, yes, I am. I said, it's funny that you say that because I was just in a 1-hour mastermind about this with the brightest minds in the industry. And I said, I explained it in detail and he just went, oh, cool. Right? Like, got it.
Yeah, no, it's not going to crush our industry.
No.
It's just going to change some stuff on
If
how
anything,
we do things.
I think it's going to be kind of a quick refresher. It's going to get a lot of those people that, exactly like you were saying, like, just skate by, whatever. And they're going to have to show their value. And I think it's, honestly, like Virginia, they already do this. You have to have a buyer-broker agreement at all times. Like, the seller doesn't have to pay it, Virginia.
I think
like,
it's one of the Pacific Northwest, too, either Oregon or Washington. Like, one of them have a rule like that already as well.
Interesting thought I want to throw your way.
Uh-huh.
So from a lead gen perspective, typically we want Realtor.com, we want Zillow Flex, we want all these things because they're the furthest down the pipeline.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They're already out touring, they're about to tour, they're raising their hands, right? Well, with the California requirements or the requirements nationwide that they have to have a representation agreement if they're touring homes. To me, I go, well, now I want to do more Facebook. Now I want to do more Google.
Mm-hmm.
Now I want to get them further out.
Okay.
I got to be patient.
Before they hit Zillow.
I want to get them before, well, even if they're on Zillow, before they start touring. Now, don't get me wrong. We still want to talk to leads that are close to the end. And I think there was a lot of value in that mastermind where it talked about they don't want 10 representation agreements because it'll be different layers, right? It'll be we're getting married. I'm your guy or gal. You're not going anywhere else. I'm with you. Then there'll be like, I'll do it for this one property, right? Because we get that now when people are like, I'll do it for one property for your listing, right? For the listing agents that let buyers come in and represent them and go, well, if I'm going to show you the home, I write the offer. I'll do it for one property, right? That's already happening.
Yep.
So it made me think to well, now we gotta. For me, I was like, I'm gonna wait more. I'm gonna heavy set wait.
Deliberately go higher in the funnel.
I'm deliberately gonna go higher in the funnel, and I'm gonna spend more energy marketing and educating, and conversing with people, and explaining what's going on in an area, and it opens up a whole tier like they were doing with listing presentations 2 years ago, where like, well, I've got my 5% package, I got my 3% package, I got my 1% package. It almost goes down to that in the buyer side too. But that was one of my thoughts of like from a technical strategic standpoint of like Facebook has always been so incorrectly looked at in my opinion, right? Because so many agents, they go, well, Facebook leads don't work. Well, if you work them the same way you work a Zillow or a referral lead, they won't work.
Yes, totally different lead.
Whole different lead, whole different mindset. This is a much more of a, hey, just wanted to check in, let you know there's a real person behind the website. Let you know that we're going to send you some stuff if you don't mind. It's really educational and valuable, and we're going to send you some stuff on how to find the best deal. We're going to educate you and nurture you, and we're going to respond to your emails, and we're going to take care of you, and then we're going to heat up as we get down the road. But now that they're saying, well, you got to require a buyer representation agreement to go out before you even tour a home. Now I'm almost thinking like, okay, pump more into the long term. And we've already been doing it for a few months, so we're already a little ahead of the curve for the people that are starting fresh. But it's like now all of a sudden I think Facebook and some of those other sources that are a little bit further out, yeah, you got to invest a little bit more money, you got to be a little bit more patient, you got to spend a little more time on content. But I almost feel like, no, we want to get to them as soon as possible.
Yeah, it's true. I feel like they were talking about opportunities versus, negatives, like from this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like it's going to be kind of like a PED form. People are going to be so accustomed to signing these things all the time that I think it's going to be easier to pick people up and say, listen, there's a new law. We have to have a binding agreement.
Yep.
And then, maybe you start with let's get married. Unless there's an objection, then you say, oh, well, we can do something that's just for this property or just for this next 2 months or 1 month instead of for the next 6 months.
Try before you buy it.
Yeah, and then you can kind of like maybe start with official, regular, exclusive agency, and then if there's an objection, you back it down. But now you might end up with actually more buyer brokers than you would have had in the first place because every single showing is required. Even a Zillow Flex, whatever. Like, come out and see this. Hey, this is, you got to see it with at least just one property, but this is what we do, you know?
100%. I think you're absolutely onto something, because if you think, oh, by the way, the funniest thing to me was when we were doing peds, I'm like, I got 9 showings today and I got to do 9 peds. Why can't I just get 1 ped
So
for
aggravating.
the whole day?
You know what I used to do?
Some people used to do that.
I used to just start writing 5 addresses on one of them and be like, boom.
That's funny.
I didn't care if it was wrong. I was like, look, I got a ped form. There it is. And like,
your address is on there somewhere.
yeah.
1 ped, like, for every single listing, and then you got to go to the other side and get it signed. At the time, we were doing about 20 we were doing about 10 transactions a month, and we had a TC, in-house transaction coordinator, in-house listing manager. It was killing 40% of our administrative time to just do peds.
Stupid peds.
40% of our workflow was on peds.
I never thought I'd bring those up again.
I know.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Look how bad we just jump right back in.
Oh man, it's like war stories.
But one of the challenges with most buyers agents do not go out and get buyer agreements right now. Most don't, which is a bad thing.
Right.
For a lot of reasons, many reasons, but they won't do it. And part of the reason why they won't do it is because when we present it to the consumer, it makes us look like the weirdos. Because why didn't anybody else ask me for this, right? So by now leveling the playing field and saying everybody has to, people are nervous about, like, what are we going to say? What are we going to do? This is phenomenal, because no longer will you have that weird uncomfortableness of, well, I was just talking to a realtor at the open house. They didn't say it. Now you go, gosh, they're already willing to break all the laws, and what are they going to do?
Do you know they're out of compliance and they could get sued for that?
Do you want to be attached to that lawsuit? Right? Like, there's now it's so easily flipped on the reverse side, where now it's the standard operating procedure.
Open house sign-ins are going to be so much easier. Like, hey, you have to sign this or you can't come in.
See, I want to take it the next step further, and I want to bake the disclosure into the smart plan. So, like with Lofty or KV Court, right? You can do the open house lead form sign in, and then you can trigger that smart plan to then automate it. Hey, you need to sign in here, and that's how we give you your disclosure. Sign in, automatically emails them, gets them to opt in, sends them disclosure.
Sign. Okay, I got the notification. You're in. Let's go. And it can be as simple as, you can make it either, oh, it's just for this one property, you know, no big deal, or no, we're married now. Like, I don't think that's probably the right call, is
at
like the get married at the open house.
You're going to get yourself into a lot of trouble.
Exactly.
Like, buyer's agents do that now with offers sometimes.
Oh, just slip in a buyer broker?
I've seen that in a few different cases.
How dirty.
It's dirty, where it's like, hey, we made one offer, and they slipped in a year-long buyer agreement, because the consumer just goes click, 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 click.
Not reading
it. And then they go to fire the realtor, and he goes, you can't fire him. You have a buyer agreement with me. He's like, oh, it's part of the offer. You didn't read it. And
by the way, who doesn't let someone fire them? Like, if you've gotten to that point where they want to fire you, you're really going to make this person stick with you against their will to go find a home? Like, they're going to hate you.
I literally write in all of my listing agreements and my buyer representation agreements, you can fire me at any given time for any specific reason.
Yeah. We do too. Like, I think we have like a 72-hour notice in there. Give a 72-hour notice.
I tell people flat out, I'm like, look, I'm going to earn your trust every single day, and if I don't, and you don't think I'm the best person for you, then fire me. And it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm kidding. It did happen one time on a listing. He fired me, and then I sold the property the very next day.
Hey.
I called him up and I said, hey, man, got a buyer. And he goes, all right, I'll take the offer, and I got it. So it did happen, sort of.
Dang.
But that's a really good thing about what's going to happen now, is that, and the consumers deserve it. The consumers deserve it, and there's been a lot of that stuff where people lock stuff into agreements and they don't know what's going on, and then people wonder why there's this negative connotation around the industry. And I actually kind of find it extremely offensive when people, like, I didn't like telling people I was a realtor. I remember my first real headshot that I got done by Nick Emerson's brother. And I saw it, and my wife goes, oh, it's very realtorish of you. And I was like, ugh. Like, because there's that connotation. And I personally believe that helping somebody navigate through one of their most stressful and difficult times in their entire life is a very prestigious thing to do. And it's a very honorable thing to do, protecting them with the experience and expertise. And so...
and you're helping them make a difference in their generational wealth. I mean, the difference between renters and I heard a stat in the news last week, I think it was, the average net worth of a renter was like $385 or something, and the average net worth of a homeowner, this is nationwide right now, 24, it was like $220,000. Like, just do you own or rent? And that's the average difference between net worth. And we are helping people change their family's situation by doing that.
It'll be interesting to see how it shakes out, but I think like everything else, man, I think that it's gonna there's gonna be people that rise to the occasion. There's gonna be people that create some really creative value props. There's gonna be people that really focus on their presentation skills and really focus on how do we make an amazing experience for the consumer. How do we showcase the value of what they're paying for? And the funny thing about it is though, man, and I'm a little cynical because they're like, sellers are like kind of going that we got this huge landfall, like they just got this big victory, like we just got a 3% raise. And I'm like, you guys know that the buyers have always been paying the commissions.
You're just gonna get 3%
The
less.
sellers literally take the money that you gave them and then pay. You guys are paying the commissions already when it really breaks down. And even if buyer commission costs are not financeable right now, this is America. There's never been a bank ever that wasn't like, well, we should just lobby to be a little wrap that in. And so it'll be, instead of $1 million house, it'll be a $970,000 house with a buyer of 3% additional closing costs that then get financed by the same bank so that the loan is still $1 million.
I text one of our lenders today.
I don't know.
No, that's very plausible.
I text a lender today and I said, how long before that's a thing where you can just finance the BCC?
You're telling me out of how many, so do the math. How many transactions are there in the entire country that are financed? I don't know.
Yeah, a lot.
I mean, there was 1,400 and something sales in January, and let's just say that 75% were not cash. So you're looking at, 1,100 that are financed. So that's 3% on 1,100 times 12 in one city, times how many cities, times all that. And you tell me the banks don't go, well, why don't we just let them finance the commissions?
Yeah.
I mean, how much was that? A couple trillion? Like, what is that? You're telling me that Wall Street's not?
They want their hands on that.
Yeah.
They want their hands on that.
Yeah. Okay.
And before that happens, sellers who are screaming from the rooftop how great this is, like, you're just going to take a cut on the sale price if you're not doing what is already expected. Like,
there's no way
if a buyer has to pay that out of pocket, they're not going to pay as much for the house.
Yeah. Like the buyers are just going to go, oh, wait a minute. Because in their mind, right, sellers like, we don't have to pay it anymore. So wait, the buyers after, and this is the hard part about America and real estate, like you talked about the wealth, is the gap is to get a home is becoming harder and harder and harder, and it's getting really, really tough. And so all of a sudden the buyers who have just watched all home values appreciate 40%, who have just been hit by inflation, who have just been hit by all this bullshit,
and
right?
rates,
who have been saving and slaving for their ability to buy a home, who then also now have rates.
Twice the rate.
Yeah. So they're looking at, in San Diego, $5,000 payments on condos, right? $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 house payments. They're all of a sudden going to go, oh, we'll pay the extra 3% too. It's fine. No, it's not. It's not happening. Like, it's just, there's no way in hell the buyers just go, oh, well, I guess that's just the way it is now.
Yeah, absolutely
no
not.
No way.
And leading up to this, because this has been going on for a long time, a lot of people have been freaking out about it. And like one of the themes in our office is just like, don't think about it until this is either settled or, like some rule comes down. It's like, okay, now this has happened. We have new rules. We've just discussed today at least a couple really cool silver linings to this thing that everybody is moaning and groaning about. Like, and there's probably going to be more the more we analyze it and break it down. Like, oh, there's some stuff that's actually going to be better for us as agents. We're still going to take care of the clients the same way. Like, it's
going to
just
take clients better.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're going to have to disclose more, and it's going to put more pressure, and they're going to get better representation because there will be a churn of the agents that if you're part-time and you're not plugged into the group, you're in trouble because you don't know what you don't know.
Yep.
And it is going to put a lot of pressure on the new agents to get really. One of the things that I had going for me when I was a new agent is I knew how to sell that I was going to get it done for you somehow, some way. How are you going to get it done, Josh? Somehow, some way. Well, how's that going to make? Somehow, some way, right? And so people often saw a little glimpse of their younger self in me, and they were willing to give me a shot. So I could sell that I'm worthy to take the shot, right? A lot of people struggle with that. I have always been a little I can do it because I've lived through some really, really tough things. So I'm like, I made it through that.
Mm-hmm.
I can do this too.
Absolutely.
Right? So if you're not that type of person and you don't have that experience, then all of a sudden your track record of how many homes do you sell and what kind of, and how do you explain? Because like cancel and expires. The best way to be a great cancel and expired agent is know how transactions fall apart all the time. Because if they get on the line and they say, well, everything was fine. Well, obviously not. You're on the list of things that went wrong. This is the list of where problems are. So you're on this list. Only people with problems can get on this list. I know there was a problem. Well, the loan just didn't finance. Well, when did you find that out? 2 days before the close. What happened to the loan contingency? Why didn't you get an update from the lender? Did he go to the lender's office? Did he knock down on the door to get an update? Why didn't he get an update?
Mm-hmm.
Why was there no extension, right? Like you can find those holes. The same thing is going to happen with the buyer agents of painting the picture of working with an experienced buyer, painting the picture of that. And if you're new or part-time, you don't know what you don't know the same way I didn't know what I didn't know. And so it is going to give the customers are going to get a better agent because it's going to force some of the stuff that shouldn't be in the industry out. And
from what remains, because already like nearly half the agents are already gone just because of rates.
They're pushing them out.
And now there's going to be a new culling because people can't really hang because it's going to get harder. And the buyers and sellers are just going to get the people that are serious and really are making this their life's work.
Too, though. They deserve that too, because if you think about how many of these like horror stories come out and you're like, what happened here? What happened there? What happened there? Well, I went with my cousin. Like, I get it. We're all trying to help some people out. But some of the most horrific horror stories in real estate are working with, and this isn't us like touting like, hey, we've been doing this. Like, I have seen a bunch of transactions get completely jacked. And it's like, what is it? 65% of all buyers go with the first agent they meet. 49% of all agents in San Diego sold one home last year. I remember I was on the phone with this FSBO guy.
That's rough, dude.
I was on this phone with this FSBO guy, and he goes, look, Josh, I've done this before. I said, oh, that's incredible, man. You're experienced. I love that. How many times have you done it? He's like, I've done it 3 times. I said, that's awesome, man. You're experienced. You've done it 3 times for sale by owner. He goes, yeah. I go, when? He goes, 2007, 1985. 1997. I said, no kidding, in California? He goes, well, 1 in Texas, 1 here. I said, so can I just share something with you? I sold 50 homes in my first 18 months of real estate, which by the way is pretty incredible by most people's standards. I didn't have a clue until after I sold 50. So you know what? I can tell right now that you're 10 times smarter than me. So you've done 10 times. That puts you around 30, but you still don't know what you don't know. And this is California, and you haven't done a transaction in 10 years. Do you think I could give you some insight? And he's like, I'm listening. I said, fair enough. Let's talk. But
that takes a level of boldness that most agents don't have right there, just to put it in his face, and be like, listen, I'm going to be as nice as I can when I say this, but you're wrong.
I compliment while I call out.
Yeah.
Right? Like, listen, I can already tell you're super smart. And listen, if you can go sell a home on your own 3 times and survive the first one and still do it time and time again, I give you the tip of the hat. But you're like Melissa Tucci, right? You ain't gonna mess with Melissa Tucci. That chick is, I'm sorry, that lovely lady professional, right? But I had the most respect for her. I mean,
she's a machine.
So when I was thinking about going to Brian, okay, I was like, all right, if I'm gonna go do a team, right? If I'm gonna really leave my business and go on this educational journey, I'm gonna go to a team. Let me check out let me not just go with the first option. Seems like a good fit. So I emailed Whissel. I said, what's up, man? Think about making a move. Can I interview with you? He said, no problem. Come on in. And I messaged Tucci. I messaged Tucci at 10:45 on a freaking Wednesday. And
she's on it.
Dude, I shut down the email. I shut down the computer. I'm like, it's great. Ding. 4 minutes later, my email goes off. And I'm like, what the hell's that? And it's freaking Tucci. And she's like, got your email. How can I help? And it was like, well, okay, we're in this. And I went back and forth with her for 3 or 4 times. And she was in a place where she wasn't looking for any team or growing. Her and Sierra Wilvatney were just freaking crushing it, killing it. But yeah, like not gonna mess with her, right? Like she does 200 transactions by herself with 1 assistant.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing that woman hasn't seen.
And she has picked up my call almost every single time I've called her.
I don't know how she does it.
I don't know how she does it.
She's one of those people like a Ruth Pugh where she was just meant to do this, right? Like Ruth is. We'll call her 48. Ruth is 48 years old. She's been doing it for 47 years, and she is another one. I asked her one time, I said, you ever burn out? She goes, in real estate? How could I? I was like, you are incredible.
Yeah.
You're incredible.
This has been one of the best podcasts I think we've had. There's so many like nuggets to take out of this, whether it's don't get ahead of yourself and start spending $8,000 a month, 3 months in.
The mindset piece.
Get a mentor. Like so many different things that were just incredible.
I probably should have read Millionaire Real Estate Agent. You know, like I was like, I'm going to be a millionaire real estate agent. You want to read the book by the guy who's done it and revolutionized the industry with these team models and red light, green light, and all that stuff? Nah, it's fine. I got lead gen down.
I'll figure it
It's
out.
great. Well, why would I read that?
I got
book?
Boomtown. I've been selling it for years.
Yeah, I know Kyle Whissel.
Yeah.
Like I played football with him. It's fine. We're going to be great.
Yeah.
Dude.
No, yeah, we hope you guys found some nuggets that you can like take and internalize and grow and be better
Yeah.
from just like learning.
And before we sign off, Josh, is there anything like you want to promote? You've got anything that people can reach out if they need help? What do you got going on?
Out there if you like?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at the Josh Pono. Forgive me for that. I was copying somebody that told me I had to do it that way. And on Facebook, I'm just Josh Pono. So no promotion. Just glad to be here. Hope somebody gets some value of it.
Cool.
It's all good.
Dude,
Thanks, man.
thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.